While we have a chance, the executive producer of NBC Sports is Michael Weissman, coordinating producer of baseball coverage, Harry Coyle. The telecast of today's game, produced by Ken Edmondson, directed by Andy Rosenberg, technical director, Neil Flagg. The gun had him at 93 on the last one. Grounded to short, Biancalana. And out away from a flight to Toronto. Will be called back, and Cecil Fielder, who had a pinch hit double last night, is coming out. This might do it. Balboni, we're going to Toronto. And look at Hauser. Just another day at the office. And perhaps that's one reason why his team played with confidence today, and they're still very much alive.
Some 40,000 fans at Exhibition Stadium in Toronto are ready. One win away from the materialization of the great Canadian dream. One win from the World Series and the first non-American team to play in the Fall Classic. Opposed by the Kansas City Royals on a cool, brisk night. They expect temperatures down in the 40s. Wind blowing briskly toward right field. It'll really give a ball a boost going in that direction. Hello, everyone. I'm Dick Enberg. Welcome to Game 6 of this American League Championship Series. You know, the Montreal Expos were only a win away against the Dodgers 4 years ago in '81, only to find the Dodgers in a similar situation, down 2-1, win the final two, and go to the playoffs. But now it's Toronto. Will they make it? One win away. Or will it be Kansas City, a team that chased the California Angels all season long, caught them in the final week? They're used to coming from behind and winning. The pitching matchups. The big right-hander, Mark Gubicza, will go for Kansas City, his first start in the series. He won 14. By the way, all 14 involved saves by Dan Quisenberry. He'll be opposed by Toronto's magic man, Doyle Alexander, the veteran 35-year-old. It was Alexander who won the division-clinching victory against the Yankees to get Toronto here. We're set to go. They're ready to celebrate here in Toronto. Canada looking for its first trip to a World Series. And the manager in that Blue Jay dugout, Bobby Cox, been relaxed throughout. Let's get his thinking. We go to Rick Dempsey.
Thanks, Dick. Bobby Cox, your thoughts on the series so far? Are you satisfied with the way your team is playing?
Well, I think we've had a good series so far. We've played well. Defensively, I think we've done a great job. We've been sometimes maybe overly aggressive on the bases, but that goes along with being aggressive, and we're a very aggressive ball club. And I thought we'd get a few more runs off Jackson. We ended up getting none, and we can't blame the umpires for not scoring runs, that's for sure. We had runners at second and third, one inning, and we didn't get a run. We had the infield back, and we were looking for a ground ball on the right side, and we couldn't do that even. Jackson pitched great. The pitching, I think, on both sides has been good. I think if there's going to be a key, either tonight or if it does go to the seventh game, it might be Tom Hinkie.
Oh, that's good. I know that, you know, in a series of this magnitude, everything kind of gets blown out of proportion. You don't really think that the umpiring has reflected any kind of prejudice like George Bell indicated?
No, I think it all started out as a joke in his locker room, because I've heard it for the last month or so, that from some of the writers or whatever around, you know, do you think that anything like that could possibly happen? And we always say no, and I think George's comment was, hey, they don't want a Canadian team to win. You know, he was joking, and it got taken out of context, and the more they talked about it, the worse it got. I think he got his foot in his mouth a little bit, probably. But as a team, with George Bell or anybody else, we don't think that. We think the umpires are doing the best job they possibly can, and maybe they booted one or two. Maybe they haven't. I don't know. Sometimes the replays don't show it right either.
Yeah, it's easy to second guess when we've got a TV to look at. Okay, thank you, Bobby. Back up to you, Dick.
All right, Rick, but Bobby Cox did make the point that the umpires are doing the best they can, and many feel that the best umpires are not here. They do not use the merit system for selection in the playoffs, unlike every other sport. It's just a rotation system. No question there have been some mistakes. Hindsight is 20/20. Nevertheless, let's re-examine some of the controversial calls of the first 5 games. That's in Game 2. Did Mosby catch the ball or not? He thought he did. The umpires ruled no, and Kansas City scored a critical run. Replay indicates that Mosby had good argument. Game 3, George Brett the batter, Willie Wilson trying to steal for Kansas City. Out or safe? The call is out. The replay says safe. Also in Game 3, the pickoff move. Out or safe? The call is out. A tough call it was, but Toronto again felt justifiably that the runner was safe. Pitcher to first base. Does the pitcher get there in time with the ball? Upshaw's toss. Watch the foot. Out is the call? No, the call went safe. And finally, in Game 5, George Bell trying to go from first to third on the base hit against Lonnie Smith's arm. You tag the man above the waist, it's pretty hard for him to be out, but that was the call. What do the ball players think about the system by which umpires are picked for the playoffs to protect his identity because he might be punished unduly in the next Major League season? This unidentified Major Leaguer offers the comments that represent most of his peers.
Well, actually, Mr. Enberg, under my estimations, I think that since it takes the best baseball players to make it to a series playoff, that somehow a merit system should be concocted so that most umpires just have to earn their way to a playoffs also. I think that due to the integrity of most catchers in the major leagues, they should leave it up to them to vote.
This is not to hint in any way that our unidentified Major Leaguer was a catcher. His point is well taken, and many agree. In every other sport, the NHL, the NBA, the NCAA, the officials that get to the playoffs get there by merit. The best make it to the championship games. That is not necessarily true in baseball. It's a union decision. Dave Phillips, the umpire-in-chief, refused to make comment tonight. He said that I'm caught in between. We have even differences within the union as to what system should be used. But at present, it is not on basis of merit. On a rotation system, everyone gets their turn, and mistakes have been made, but I guess that's part of baseball, too. Hopefully, it won't figure in tonight's decision. We're ready for Game 6 from Toronto. So, will the great Canadian dream materialize tonight in Toronto, or will Kansas City, as they've done all year, force a Game 7 tomorrow night? The weather will be a factor.
I think so. If there's been any potential for a high-scoring game, it would have to be tonight, Dick, because the wind's blowing out so hard to right field. In batting practice, the ball was flying out of here. I would not want to be the catcher to call an inside pitch tonight.
So both pitches, Mark Gubicza of Kansas City and Doyle Alexander for Toronto, will be trying to keep that ball low. We're almost set for Game 6. Bob Costas and Tony Kubek. But right now from Toronto, let's go to NBC News. It began with Dave Steve, a masterful 8-inning, 8-strikeout performance in Game 1, an easy Toronto victory to open the series. The next day, it looked like Kansas City would get even. They led by 1 going to the bottom of the 10th, but the Blue Jays scored twice. The winner on this Al Oliver hit off Dan Quisenberry, and they headed for Kansas City up 2-0. But in the home state of Mark Twain, reports of the Royals' death were greatly exaggerated. George Brett with a classic game, 4 hits, 2 of them home runs, 6-5 Kansas City as they jump back in it. The next night they looked to get even, but again Quisenberry couldn't get Oliver out in the clutch. 3 Blue Jay runs in the ninth and a 3-1 lead in the series. In Game 5, needing to win to stay alive, Danny Jackson turned in a shutout performance for the Royals. They pulled it within 3-2 and send the series back north of the border. NBC Sports presents Game 6 of the 1985 American League Championship Series. Tonight from Exhibition Stadium, it's the Kansas City Royals versus the Toronto Blue Jays. And it's brought to you by Ford and your local Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Miller Beer. Miller made the American way since 1855. By General Electric. At GE, we bring good things to life. And by McDonald's. It's a good time for the great taste of McDonald's. Exhibition Stadium in Toronto on a cool October night. They've already had one baseball celebration here this year as they clinch the division title on the next to last day of the regular season against the Yankees, and they're hungry for another one tonight. Hi, everybody. Bob Costas with Tony Kubek. Now, in that division clincher against the Yanks,
Doyle Alexander was on the mound. He went the distance. Bobby Cox calls on him to try and close it out here tonight in Game 6. And Alexander, the veteran, on 3 days rest, will not have any problems with the fact that he was hit hard by Kansas City in Game 3.
He can adjust as well as anybody. Call him the money pitcher, if you will. That same kind of wind that was blowing on that Saturday against a powerful Yankee ball club is blowing tonight from the left field foul pole out to right, out toward Lake Ontario. Alexander prevented that ball club on the clincher from hitting the ball in the air to right field where you can get hurt badly. So he will keep the ball away or inside the right-handers. Gubicza, on the other hand, Bob, is a power pitcher. The Blue Jays, their best lineup, a left-handed hitting lineup. They are young and they love fastballs, and you don't have to make a mistake here to have the ball fly out here in right field.
How do you think Gubicza, who by his own admission is a hyper young man, how will he react to this kind of situation?
Well, Jimmy Sundberger said that he will have to really hold him down and keep going like this. Back off a little bit. Don't be so hyper. I would think that from first inning on, Bud Black may be warming up in the bullpen.
Of course, everybody will be available except for the possible Game 7 starter, Brett Saberhagen, as far as Dick Hauser's bullpen is concerned. So it's 35-year-old Doyle Alexander against 23-year-old Mark Gubicza. The rest of the lineups next.
This is Bobby Cox, manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. As I look at the KC lineup, these are some of the keys that we're going to have to work with very well. Number 1 is Lonnie Smith. Number 2 is Willie Wilson. Both these players have great running speed. Both of them are contact-type hitters. Both of them can bunt. Both of them are exceptional base stealers. If we can keep those two guys off and not let George Brett come to the plate with men on, we have a good chance of beating them.
Behind Doyle Alexander, something that has been underestimated and overlooked at times, this brilliant defense behind Alexander. They've made just one error in the last 5 ball games. One mental error thrown to the wrong base. Otherwise, they've kept their pitching staff in the ball game.
The only official error they made, Upshaw booted a Sheridan grounder in Game 3. In contrast, the Royals have made 5 errors. Here's the man they look to lock it up on 3 days rest. But they're not concerned about the short rest. In fact, Bobby Cox said Alexander pitches as well on 3 days rest as anybody in baseball. Pat Gillick, their vice president in charge of baseball, says that Alexander's ball moves better on short rest. The sinker has a tendency to drop more severely. He had 5 days rest before he pitched in Game 3 on Friday night in Kansas City, and he was ineffective. Worked 5 innings, gave up 7 hits, 5 runs, and of course George Brett personally destroyed him with a double and a pair of homers. Alexander was not involved in the decision. When he left, the game was tied 5-all, and the Jays ultimately lost it 6-5. Lonnie Smith will start it out. George Brett is hitting .412 for the Royals. Willie Wilson .400 in the series. Beyond that, no Royal with as many as 5 at-bats is hitting any higher than .222.
After that Yankee clincher, Alexander on the mound October 5th, they called this kind of wind, and Alexander win. Only one ball was hit to right field in the air.
Curveball is hit in the air to center. It's Mosby for the first out. On the opening night of the series, the crowd was into it from the very first pitch. In Game 2, as we noted, they were very quiet until the ball game became a dramatic affair in the late innings. They will be with it on every pitch tonight. They are psyched for a clincher.
I don't think they'll hurt the Kansas City Royals. They've had these kinds of crowds on the road before. They might help the Blue Jays a little bit. The main thing that helps you at home, though, is getting your last at-bats. Takes an awful lot of pressure off your defense, your offense, and that bullpen. A little bit of edge.
Ball 1 to Willie Wilson. The plate umpire is Darrell Cousins. He and Ted Hendry are working in their first playoff series. The others are veterans with various degrees of experience in postseason play. Fouled off 1-1. Dave Phillips, who is the crew chief, is at first base. Dale Ford at second. Jim Evans, who is a crew chief during the regular season, is at third. Hendry is on the left field line. And the Game 5 plate umpire, Vic Voltaggio, calls the plays down the right field side. Inside, 2-1.
Doyle Alexander's fastball will surprise you. He has been clocked at times up to 90 miles an hour, and some scouts still think that he's an off-speed pitcher, basically. He's not. He's trying to establish that fastball early.
Against Kansas City, counting the outing in the playoffs, 3 no decisions and a loss, and generally pitched beneath his normal standard for the year. 3-1 pitch misses, and a walk to Willie Wilson. As Brett heads for the batter's box, let's look back to Friday night in Kansas City, his first at-bat against Alexander.
Third baseman, number 5.
And this one is crushed down the line and right for the first of his 2 homers. He narrowly missed a 3-homer game. All would have been off Alexander. His double in his second at-bat missed going over the wall by no more than a couple of feet.
And Bob, when you look at the makeups of these 2 lineups tonight, really the only authentic home run hitter from the left side in the Royals lineup is Brett. Sheridan might hit one, but he only had 3 during the season. Wilson isn't. Blue Jays, on the other hand, have about 5, can pop the ball out on you using that wind to right field.
Although oddly, and it shows you how statistics can distort reality in a short series, the Royals have hit 5 homers in the series, and the Jays have hit only 2. Strike 1 to Brett.
That's right where Doyle Alexander pitched down Mattingly and the rest of the powerful left-handed hitting Yankees on October 5th. He just ran the fastball away, and more often than not was right on the outside edge.
Willie Wilson stole 43 during the regular season. That's down for him, but keep in mind, they often didn't want him to steal with Brett at the plate. They pitched around Brett so much as it is that if Wilson were to steal second and leave first base open, Dick Hauser knew that they'd often walk George intentionally. So that's why Willie was a bit more conservative on the paths this year.
Alexander holds runners on well. He'll change his delivery quick out of the glove. There was the circle change, and look where it was. Blowing away not just on the black, but 6 inches off the plate outside. Dick Hauser trying to come back again.
We'll check Wilson on the 3-1 pitch. Going. Ball 4. He can trot into second. So back-to-back walks to Wilson and Brett bring Hal McRae to the plate. McRae singled in his first 2 at-bats of the series. Since then, he's 1 for 13. Swings on the first one and fouls it out of play. There's a lot of playoff experience on the Kansas City roster, but the dean is Hal McRae. He's playing in his 44th postseason game. Played in 2 World Series with the Reds, 1970 against the Orioles, 72 against the Oakland A's.
Still not taking batting practice. Hasn't done that for 2.5 weeks for fear he might re-injure that side muscle.
Fastball. It's by Fernandez. Wilson is waved home. The throw from Bell, not in time. And Kansas City grabs a 1-0 lead. Brett stopped at second. So the old pro Hal McRae gives them the 1-0 lead here in the top of the first.
Looked like a hard slider from Alexander, and Tony Fernandez leaned a little bit up the middle, thinking if McRae would hit it, if it was located right, he would hit it up the middle. Alexander got a little too high. McRae turned on it, and Fernandez couldn't recover, go back to his right.
Willie Wilson came across with the game's first run after drawing a 1-out walk. So the back-to-back walks to Wilson and Brett have hurt Alexander, and he's still in hot water. Sheridan at the plate. His only hit of the series was his pinch hit homer in Game 2. 1 for 12 overall. Strike 1.
Alexander, up until the All-Star break, Bob, and just a little beyond, had control problems. One of the reasons why he threw so many home run pitches. He was getting behind, and this little ballpark, he was getting hurt.
He gave up 28 homers for the year, one of the highest figures in the American League.
Alexander's on the home plate umpire now. He thought that Darrell Cousins, the home plate umpire, missed that last pitch to Sheridan. That's been a very effective pitch for Alexander. That cut fastball runs in on the fists and break the left-hand hitter's bat. Keeps him off the plate a little bit, then he can go with that circle change, screwball-like action.
Count evens at 2-2. Right
Jim
away,
Acker.
Jim Acker gets up. He pitched well in Game 5 in a relief stint at Kansas City. And despite the temperatures in the low 50s, no sweatshirt for Mr. Acker. The 2-2 pitch, a high fastball swung on and missed. And Alexander gets his first strikeout.
That's the hardest pitch he has thrown. He gives you so many different angles. This one is 3/4, and he runs it away. He will sink it. He will cut it. And as he says, I change my arm angle from over the top 3/4 to the side, and that gives me 3 deliveries with my fastball. He'll come from the side with the change, sinking fastball, little slider.
The strikeouts so far in the series don't concern Hauser. After all, Balboni fanned 166 times during the season, easily the most in the American League. But he doesn't have an extra base hit. He just has 3 singles, 2 of them in Game 5. This one is hit off the fist. Let's see if it's playable. Witt off with a mask. Just enough room. So the single by Hal McRae gives the Royals the early lead, and we'll return to Exhibition Stadium in a minute.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Here's the lineup card. Bobby Cox is filled out. Damaso Garcia leads off at second base. Lloyd Mosby in center field. Against the right-hander, Rance Mullenix, who had a homer in Game 3, is at third base. Willie Upshaw moves up in the lineup while Bell and Barfield move down. Upshaw in the cleanup spot. Al Oliver, who's made the very most of his opportunities, 3 hits and 5 trips, is the DH. George Bell is in left field. His 8 hits lead the Blue Jays and tie him with Willie Wilson for the series lead. Witt will catch. Barfield hits 8th in right field against the right-hander. Fernandez again 9th, the shortstop.
At third base, number 3.
A defense that after the first 2 ball games here in Exhibition Stadium settled down. Frank White moved down in the lineup, we told you. He did not hit, and he is having trouble gripping the ball throwing. We'll find out how well the Gold Glover does.
And as Damaso Garcia settles into the batter's box, 23-year-old Mark Gubicza gets ready. He's 6'5", 210, used in relief in Game 1 of this series and pitched very well. The son of a Philadelphia area postman, and here's his delivery for a strike. In fact, the battery, both offspring of mailmen. Jim Sundberg's dad, a retired postman from Galesburg, Illinois. Did he make the mitt pop on that one? He can throw it around 95 when he's got the good heater going.
He can pitch upstairs, and he can also sink the ball downstairs. A slider not as hard as Danny Jackson, the left-hander. Occasional change.
Garcia reaches him for a leadoff hit. Does it get in the gap? Yes, it does. At least a double. And he'll stop there. For Garcia, his 6th hit of the series and his 4th double.
A young team that thrives on fastballs. Gubicza has a live fastball. Garcia down a little bit away, goes with it. Mosby, one of those who might have difficulty, especially if you can get the fastball up and in on him. He can be jammed.
For a guy hitting just 182 in the series, Mosby has been in the middle of some big, big plays. Ball 1. For example, the catch or no catch in Game 2. His 2 late base hits in that same game, and he scored the winning run. The double in Game 4 in the 9th inning off Charlie Leibrandt to tie the ball game up, and then ultimately he scored the winning run on the Al Oliver hit. And it was also his liner that hit Brett Saberhagen in the leg in Game 3.
Think about Al Oliver got the 2 game-winning RBIs off Quisenberry, and so many times the one that many feel is more important, setting up the game winner. Those are done by Mosby, 1 off Quisenberry and 1 off the left-hander, Charlie Leibrandt.
You saw his record of 14-10. On June 7th, he was 1-4. After that, 13-6. Hit softly, but it might drop, and it does. Garcia had to hold up to see if Smith could catch it, and he advances only to third.
I think Jimmy Sundberg and Gubicza got that ball where they wanted it. Show you the strength of 25-year-old Lloyd Mosby. Got it at the belt, jammed him. He hit the flare to left field. There may be action very quickly now down in that bullpen. Dick Hauser cannot afford to wait, or it's all over.
He figures to have to go to the pen at one point or another in this game, even if Gubicza pitches pretty well, because in 28 starts this year, Gubicza never was there at the finish. In fact, he hasn't pitched a complete game since mid-season last year. Infield plays back, conceding what would be the tying run. Ball 1 to Mullenix. Garth Orge, who platoons with Mullenix at third base, said in his column in the Toronto Star today, look, I admit it, we're better with Mullenix in there these days. He's hitting the ball better than I am, and generally, we're better with our left-hand hitting platoon in there.
And look out for Mosby. He led the ball club with 37 during the regular season. Gubicza's got a long windup. He's a big kid. Something that Gary Blaylock, the pitching coach, has had to do with these youngsters, teach them how to hold men on. Speed up their delivery, pitch out.
Back to Gubicza. They might get 2. There's 1. The runner coming to the plate. They concede the run. Biancalana looked toward the plate and then threw on to first to complete the double play. Garcia crosses, and we're even at 1.
It was Garcia's job to come on right off the crack of the bat. He didn't, to force Gubicza to go after him. Now, when Gubicza looks, he is not coming home. You can see Sundberg setting up. It is too late now as Biancalana looks. He could have saved himself a run. It's the job of that guy on third base to come, try and get in a rundown so the runners can go to second and third. But the other way is to get out of it with 1 run, which he may do.
Ball 1 to Upshaw.
Gubicza does have a good sinker. That's something Gary Blaylock has done with Jackson and with Gubicza. They were 4-seam fastball pitchers. He's moved them with the seam. They sink it better.
Well, Gubicza appeared to be in deep trouble. He escapes with only 1 run scoring as White throws Upshaw out. So each team throws a single run on the board in the first. And we'll be back in just a minute.
Please go to customer service.
On the ground ball, back to Mark Gubicza, first and third, nobody out. Buddy Biancalana has the ball. Damaso Garcia, not yet, halfway home. Biancalana looked at him. Don't know if he got the ball, caught in his glove. He could have had Garcia easily as Sundberg was set up waiting for the throw. He elected to take the double play and concede the run. He might have saved the run if he had come home. Remember Concepcion, when he got the ball caught in his glove early on up here at Exhibition Stadium? Got Quisenberry in trouble.
So the 1-run spot the Blue Jays gave the Royals is quickly erased. It'll be Sundberg, White, and Biancalana in the top of the second.
Leading off the second for the Royals, the catcher, number 8.
In his 12th Major League season, Sundberg finally gets a chance to perform in the big show, or maybe the semi-big show. The World Series, I guess, has to be viewed as the ultimate. Strike 1 to Sundberg, who has 2 hits in the series, a double and a homer. His homer in Game 3 lost in the shuffle with all the heroics performed by Brett. Off-speed pitch swung on and missed.
Alexander dropped down the side on Sundberg in that home run and kept the ball inside, belt high, and he hit it in the left field corner.
1-2 pitch to Sundberg. Comes sidearm and got it. Second strikeout for Alexander.
Sidearm changeup. He talks about changing his delivery. He talks about changing his arm angle like a mathematician. To be able to drop down and throw that changeup from over there, it's very unusual.
Alexander really hit rock bottom during his tenure with the Yankees. He was 1-9 with them when they finally released him in 1983, and his ERA was 6.16. Fernandez comes in, one-hands it, and throws Frank White out.
A lot of reasons that make Tony Fernandez an outstanding young shortstop in his first full year. Maybe one of the most is like Ozzie Smith with the Cardinals. He wants the ball. Look at where he's playing. There's that little hump if you missed the first 2 ball games here. A drain pipe. There's a bump. Balls take bad hops. Tony Fernandez has learned to play in front of it, so he doesn't get bad hops. Until he learned about that, it may have cost him a few errors early. Tremendous range. His arm is getting more and more accurate now, too.
Biancalana now. And Hauser and GM John Schuerholz will tell you that the 2 areas they will look to shore up before next season, even if they go all the way and win the World Series, their right field situation. They didn't get much productivity out of the Sheridan-Motley platoon, and the shortstop situation, where Biancalana has started every game over Concepcion. That's foul. If they get a slugging right fielder, a Kirk Gibson type, just as an example, and Gibson would be available as a free agent, then perhaps they could carry a light-hitting shortstop with a slick glove, but they can't have two out spots in the lineup. 0-2 pitch. And Biancalana stays alive by fouling it off. Toward the end of his tenure with the Yankees, Alexander was being derided mercilessly by George Steinbrenner. In fact, at one time, Steinbrenner said he had to get Alexander off the mound for the protection and safety of his infielders. Now, subsequently, Steinbrenner has admitted that his two greatest mistakes were releasing Alexander and letting Reggie Jackson go. Hit up the middle, and the second base hit of the series for Buddy.
Well, David Letterman can continue to keep his chart, huh?
I believe if you count postseason hits, that would be 58 lifetime for Biancalana.
In a few weeks, Pete Rose will break Ty Cobb's all-time hit record, but the attention of the baseball world will shift then to another historic record chase. And with this Buddy Biancalana hit counter, you can chart the Royals' veteran utility infielders' march to immortality. All right, let's see. Buddy got a hit, one hit last week. All right. Only 4,181 hits to go. Good luck, Buddy. Keep up the good work.
Change up, low and away. They're trying to get Biancalana to strike out less. They've put him in a little bit of a crouch. Lee May has done that so he can see the ball better and just get the barrel head out and put it in play.
Lonnie Smith now. He flied to center to start the ball game. Game 5 was vintage Lonnie Smith. He had 3 hits and a key stolen base. He was also picked off once, and he's been known to do that. He lost track of a pop-up and was doubled up, standing on second base when the ball was finally caught by Garcia. They challenged his arm in left field, and he made them pay for it by throwing George Bell out at third base. So his performance ran the gamut. Lonnie Smith tags one to left, but George Bell, almost in his tracks, records the putout. No runs, a hit, and a man is left. After 1.5, tied at 1. The blimp overhead here at Exhibition Stadium. Will it help us record a celebration for the Blue Jays? Not if the Royals have anything to say about it. In any case, it is time for another clinic from pitching coach Kubek.
You wouldn't
be
dare.
my guest.
Doyle Alexander's circle change, which has been so effective.
Make the OK sign.
Mario Soto throws it, put it like this. Comes out like a screwball this way. He also throws the effective pitch, the cut fastball, where he uses the seams and turns it this way because this middle finger is longer. He gets an action this way, and it cuts it. So you've got one going this way and one cutting in on your fist if you're left-handed hitter.
Great stuff, huh, folks? Al Oliver celebrated his 39th birthday yesterday, which was also the Canadian Thanksgiving Day. Ball one from Gubicza. And Oliver, who does not lack for self-confidence, says it flatly. If they just let me play every day someplace, I'd have my 3,000 hits. A little chopper, and Frank White is right there. Al Oliver's gone.
Well, nothing apparently wrong with Frank White's hand as far as throwing. When he hit the last time, the top hand flew off the right hand. You can see him clenching his fist. It is swollen. They tried to tape it. Mickey Cobb, if you saw our Game 5, he's the trainer. Tried all kinds of things to tape it. Had little butterfly stitches for the cut. Val getting a lot of support here with all the controversy, almost an international incident. Some newspaper writers call it the international incident slide into third. A lot of publicity, off-day story.
Some newspaper writers obviously desperate for material. Bell probably regrets his ill-advised comments after Game 5. That the umpires are anti-Canadian and more particularly anti-Dominican. Heck, they may have just missed a call on a given ball player who plays for a given ball club. Biancalana throws Bell out. I guess Biancalana is the #1 guy at shortstop, at least on his present roster, as far as Dick Hauser is concerned. We have seen nothing of Onyx Concepcion, even when Jimmy Key has started, the left-hander for Toronto.
Well, last season, Concepcion beat out UL Washington. He went up to Montreal, and then he got hurt and didn't perform. So Biancalana kind of been not platooning day in and day out. You never knew who was going to play. This guy can get the ball, good fastballs in the wind to right field. One of the real authentic pull hitters, perhaps the only authentic pull-hitting left-handed hitter that the Blue Jays have.
He hit 19 over the wall during the season. Fastball inside. Of course, we do see Concepcion at short for the Royals in the late innings after they hit for Biancalana, which they do frequently. (2-0) with Barfield on deck.
Ernie slumped badly in September with that damaged right shoulder. You wouldn't know it by his throwing in this league championship series. He's caught 4 of 6 attempting to steal. But it bothered his swing. That and playing every day when Buck Martinez went down. He looks like he's moved up on the plate, Bob.
Got the inside corner, 2-1. The Butterflies may have calmed down just a little bit as far as Gubicza is concerned. He was in deep trouble in the first inning and got out of it with only 1 run scoring. Three and 1. Sundberg says that during the season, frequently he had to go out and tell Gubicza he was overthrowing. He doesn't have to really rear back that much. He's going to get it into the 90s anyway on his natural motion. So Sundberg tries to make sure he doesn't try too hard. Witt pops it up on the left side with Sundberg and Brett both over, and off Sundberg, and then finally he holds it. I thought we might get a repeat of the Bob Boone-Pete Rose play from the 1980 World Series, and Brett was ready with the assist, but Sundberg did the juggling act and held it.
He battled a lot of people over there. Police officers, bat boys, ball boys, cameramen, but he does it all himself.
Brett was willing, but Sundberg was able. Back after these messages from your local station. Take a look and see if Brett ever touches this ball. I don't think so. The official score has ruled the play 2-5-2. Now watch Brett's left hand. It gets up there, but Sundberg's right hand is up first, and he taps it. And then before Brett's right hand can make contact, Sundberg finally clutches it.
Let's take a closer look then.
Well, follow the bouncing ball.
Volleyball, anyone? No, I think after seeing the replay, they'll find out that George had no hand in it, that it was all Sundberg battling a lot of people in front of the Blue Jays dugout.
So we go to the top half of the third. It'll be Wilson, Brett, and McRae. Ball game tied at 1 apiece. Obviously, this speculation is premature in terms of expecting that the Blue Jays will wrap it up here, locked in a 1-1 game. But since this kind of speculation is part of what makes being a baseball fan fun, consider this possibility. If the Blue Jays win tonight and don't have to use Steve in Game 7, and we'll continue after the first pitch to Wilson, which is a ball, they would be a well-rested ball club hosting the first game of the World Series Saturday here at home. They'd have Steve ready, and they could use him 3 times in a 7-game World Series. Next if. As Wilson hits it softly, but it finds a home over Fernandez for a leadoff single. If the Dodgers beat the Cardinals tomorrow, and the Cardinals then have to use Tudor in Game 7 and win Game 7, the Cardinals would have to travel all the way across the country and up into Canada, and could not use Tudor, a left-hander, and we know the Jays have trouble with lefties, until Game 3 in St. Louis at the earliest. Now, those are a bunch of ifs that depend upon a lot of different results falling into place. Nonetheless, Bobby Cox told me before the game he's thought about that. Now it's Brett, who is uppermost in Cox's thoughts.
It's kind of situation. If Willie Wilson can get a jump, I certainly would send him. You've got to take some pressure off Brett's shoulders. And he keeps being dependent upon to do everything with the bat. Obviously, they're not going to throw him strikes. So let Willie Wilson go. They walk him, you throw it in the hands of McRae and Sheridan behind him.
Not going. Swing and a miss.
That's just the way he pitched. All the left-handed hitters on Yankee on the Eastern Division clinching game on the 5th of October. Threw very hard outside half of the plate. They just couldn't pull it.
A little nubber down to third. Play at second. Got him there, and that's all.
There was the circle change. Charlie Liebrandt throws one. Some scouts will call it the half screwball, not a true screwball. Nice play by Fernandez. So many times the shortstop will react to the ball coming off the bat and head over behind the third baseman and then can't recover. Makes it difficult for the second baseman pulling a left-hander like Brett to get over for the force out. Fernandez did it for him.
McRae's RBI single gave KC a brief 1-0 lead in the first. Fastball fouled out of play.
That may have hurt Hal McRae a little bit. McRae likes to dive into the ball. He's way off the plate. He likes the ball outside more than in, although he can adjust to hit the ball inside. He's trying to buy some time, I believe, now, because he had to reach for that ball, and I think that would be a tougher pitch for him to hit with that damaged side muscle.
Missed the outside corner. Witt held it there, hoping for the call. By the way, the official scorer changed his ruling on the Sundberg catch of the Witt foul pop after viewing the replay. Strictly put out 2. No 2-5-2. He realized Brett never touched it. Up and in, 2-1. After McRae became the full-time DH, hitting behind Brett in late July, for a 2-month stretch, he averaged about an RBI a game. He couldn't make it for Game 1, and George Orta opened the DH. McRae has started every game since then for Kansas City. There goes Brett, and it's tapped foul, and that swing hurt McRae.
Yeah, he is. He said he had to make up his mind, and that was a changeup. He said he had to make up his mind when he played the latter part of the season to do one thing. If I start my swing, I've got to keep on going. It's easy to say that. Now, here's a changeup off the end of the bat. Look at that top hand fly off the bat. He's hurting. You know, Bob, you look at his numbers during the regular year after having such an atrocious start. In 320 at-bats during the regular season, McRae drove in 70. He may be on the move again.
He is not on the 2-2 pitch, and now the count is full. So a 3-2 pitch coming with 1 out, and Brett at first. There he goes, and it's hit foul.
Probably ball 4. Looked like it was off the plate. 6 inches to a dozen. You know, talking about the umpires, I think it's interesting, and Dick Enberg, I think, along with Rick Dempsey, did an excellent piece with the stop action and different angles. When you figure that over the first 5 ball games, these umpires probably called a minimum of 1,000 balls and strikes, and that's a very low estimate. And how many times have there been really arguments on called balls and strikes? 20? That's where umpires get in trouble more than on the bases. It's that how they're going to call the strikes, and are they going to be consistent or not? And in that regard, there have not been an awful lot in a pressure-packed short series like this, arguments.
Brett is going, and the 3-2 pitch again fouled away. Interesting that Richard Nixon has been selected to arbitrate the dispute between the umpires and Big League Baseball over just how they will be compensated for the playoffs now that the League Championship Series has gone from a best-of-5 format to a best-of-7.
He is a baseball fan.
Big baseball
Sets
fan.
often with Gene Autry, the owner of the California Angels, visits ballparks in New York to see ball games.
Again, Brett goes. Ripped by McRae, a fair ball and extra bases. By Mullenix and into the corner. Brett being waved home by Ferraro. Bell falls down as the ball kicked around against the mound in the bullpen. And McRae has his second RBI, and Kansas City has a 2-1 lead. So McRae, playing in pain, nonetheless gets around on this one and places it between Mullenix and the bag as the Royals jump in front again.
Hit that little area where there appears to be not a drainage pipe, but some kind of pipe there. Looks like the hook hoses up too. Brett, who has the play in front of him, you're seeing one of the best base runners in the game. You might notice he never even looked at Ferraro, his third base coach. It was there. He did it himself, and Val slipped and tried to pick it up. The ball squirted loose, and Brett Cape kept on coming.
The ruling is straight double RBI. Sheridan now. Hits it in the air to left. Bell over a few steps. That's the second out.
It's interesting ruling because if Bell had picked that ball up cleanly the first time, of course he did fall down when the cleats went underneath him, I don't think Brett would have scored.
The first baseman, number 45, Steve Balboni.
We mentioned this during Game 5 in Kansas City. The reference point, now that the LCS has gone to a 7-game format, becomes World Series play. The last 3 teams to recover from 3-1 World Series deficits and win the series all won the last 2 on the opposing team's turf. Off-speed pitch for a strike to Balboni. The Yankees of 1958 won the 5th game at Yankee Stadium, the last 2 in Milwaukee. The Tigers of 68, 5th game at Detroit, last 2 in St. Louis. The Pirates of 79, 5th game at Three Rivers Stadium, and the last 2 at Baltimore to break Earl Weaver's heart. 0-1 pitch. Again, the slow stuff, and it's 0-2 to Balboni.
Isn't it something, McRae sitting down at second base, driving in his second run? But as you just indicated, Mickey Cobb told you that he would be on the disabled list if this were the regular season. He's taught these guys how to win. Everybody admits that from the Kansas City Royals.
It gets away from Witt, and trotting down to third is McRae. Ruled as a wild pitch.
Dropped down from the side with that little change-up, and it just squirted out of his hand. Ernie Witt tries all he can to at least knock it down and keep the runner from going to third base, where there's a lot more pressure on an infield. Infield hits can score you. Balk, wild pitch, pass ball. What, 13 different ways from third? Don't ask me to name it.
Witt thought he had the third strike, and so did the crowd.
So did Doyle Alexander, who rarely, Ernie is really jawing with Darrell Cousins, the home plate umpire.
Now it's 3-2, and we see that at least one unwelcome import has made its way across the border and into Canada. The barnyard chant after a disputed call. That's one American custom. Best not picked up. Here's the 3-2. Got him.
Look at Balboni. He thought it was too low.
Nonetheless, Alexander is again burned by McRae. His RBI double has given Kansas City a 2-1 lead. Game 6 of the 1985 American League Championship Series is brought to you by Ralston Purina Company, makers of Purina pet foods and other fine products from Checkerboard Square. And by Prestone 2 Antifreeze. America goes with Prestone. And we go to the bottom half of the third. Barfield has started, hitting in the 8th slot against a right-hander. 1-0 pitch from Gubicza. In there.
Like Danny Jackson, the left-hander who shut the Blue Jays out 2-0, Gubicza's ball downstairs moved. There's a slider that hung, and Jesse took it. Looking fastball. Good hitter's pitch. Barfield watched it.
Gubicza had only one start during the regular season against Toronto, and he fared very poorly. Gave up 5 earned runs in 2 2/3 and walked 5. Fastball swung on and missed. First strikeout for Gubicza, who was very effective, as we told you, in his 3-inning relief stint in Game 1 after the game was already out of hand.
A four-seamer upstairs with that little hopping action.
He worked 3 innings in Game 1, didn't allow a hit or a run, struck out 2 and walked 1. Fernandez now hitting .313 in the series on 5 for 16. Fernandez gets it by Brett. He runs well around first. He's not going to stop. Lonnie Smith throw. Safe. Fernandez did hesitate for 1 second, and that made it a closer play than it otherwise would have been.
I think he was surprised by Lonnie Smith getting in the corner this quickly. What happened to Tony, Billy Smith was saying go on, the first base coach, but I think he got the bag with the wrong foot and he started drifting. When he picked his head up to find the ball, he didn't hit the corner of the bag on the inside. Lonnie Smith makes a nice play to make this close. Really, where Tony Fernandez made this double was from home plate to first base, even though he may have been off stride when he hit the first base bag. Nice attempt at a tag by Frank White. Tony Fernandez, can he do a lot of things?
Well, he's your choice as the best defensive shortstop in the American League, although I'd go with Ozzie Guillen of the White Sox, but certainly Fernandez is up there, and he'll probably cut down his errors as the years go by. Garcia doubled and scored in the first. Fastball is outside.
As much as I like Ozzie Guillen, I don't think he has the running speed and perhaps would have difficulty on this artificial surface. Smith's throw a little bit offline. Frank White makes the dive, and look at the little slide to the outfield side of the bag.
The Blue Jays and their fans, perhaps the fans more so, sensitive about any pitch that might be deemed too close. Bell was pointing a threatening finger at Bud Black after Black got him in game 2.
I think they feel that Gubicza and Danny Jackson are probably a little more effective when they're conveniently wild and every once in a while let one get away.
Outside, and it gets away from Sundberg. Fernandez to third.
It was a cut fastball, but I do believe it's going to be a pass ball charged to Sundberg. The ball took off. So with one out, bases are runner on third base for a sac fly will score. Not an easy play for Sundberg, but a catcher with his glove and his statistics defensively, he's got to have that. Wild pitch. I would disagree with the official score.
That is the ruling, though. Wild pitch. So Fernandez is at third with one out. .30 pitch coming to Garcia. Infield in. Ball 4.
And that's hard to do. Remember that came back to haunt him when they walked Garcia leading off an inning? Kansas City.
That was in game 4 when Lee Brandt took a 1-0 lead to the 9th. The Royals looking to even the series at 2. He walked Garcia on 4 pitches, and Mosby immediately doubled to right center to tie the game, and that set the stage for Al Oliver's double a few batters later that won it.
And you've got good running speed at both corners in Fernandez and Garcia, and excellent running speed at the plate in Mosby.
Now they back up with the double play in order.
Garcia may be on the move, although late in the season he had that trouble with his knee.
Hits the first one slowly to short. Biancalana's only play is to first, and the game is tied again.
A sinking fastball that wasn't hit hard enough to turn a double play. Look at the jump. Tony Fernandez gets off third base. No chance for Biancalana as Fernandez really gets out of the chute. This Toronto Blue Jays speed has been a big factor for them all year long, not just defensively and not just stealing bases, running the bases. They have outstanding instinct. Jimmy Williams helps with the base running. He's the third base coach down in spring training.
Garcia at second with 2 out. Mullenix hit into a double play. A run scored on it in the first inning. Obviously, Rance didn't get an RBI. (2-0).
They're trying to keep the ball in on Mullenix. Remember, you can run on the center fielder Wilson's arm and Lonnie Smith, even though he did throw Bell out in game 5 at third base.
Did he go around? They want to check at third. Yes, he did. Jim Evans down there.
Melnick starts out after the cut fastball. These, more often than not, are being called strikes now by a lot of umpires. Perhaps one of the reasons why some batting averages are going down. He punch them out a little more freely now.
Breaking pitch missed, and it's 3-1. Upshaw would be next. Now Gubicza, who wanted that call, trying to regain his composure. There's Fernandez. He doubled and scored the game-tying run here in the third. Full count to Mullenix.
Say, Dick Hauser has got himself 3 outstanding young arms, doesn't he? Brett Saberhagen, Danny Jackson, Mike Gubicza, all in their early 20s. I guess you'd have to look toward the New York Mets. Gooden, Darling, Hernandez, and Aguilera have another staff's got this many young, good arms.
He walks Mullenix.
That may get the bullpen going again. Dick Hauser goes home if the Blue Jays win this, and the Blue Jays go on to the World Series. Bud Black up again. He was up in the first, remember.
Well, between Game 5 and tonight, he's been up and down more times than a pump handle, and it's not likely to stop. Hauser can't afford to be too patient. Gubicza's pitch to Upshaw. Right on the button, but right at White. So in both the first and the third, Kansas City has scored in the top half. Toronto has come right back to even the issue in the bottom half. Well, both the Royals and the Cardinals were heading home down 2-0, and the Cardinals did it just a little bit better on their home turf. They swept 3. Kansas City could manage only 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays at home. So they're on the short end of a 3-2 instead of the other way around.
Bud Black keeps on throwing. I wonder if that means he may be coming in the ball game.
Sundberg, White, and Biancalana in the fourth. The changeup bounced to third. Mullenix takes care of Sundberg.
I wonder if he started him out with a knuckleball. It might have been. The way he swung at it, beat down on it. Just that extra pitch to show some of these Royals.
Number 20, Frank White.
See if we can see up in the back. I believe that was a knuckleball.
He's thrown 2 or 3 of them tonight, after all but abandoning it late in the season. Strike 1 to Frank White.
Well, he pitched so well in September, he didn't need it. He's basically a 2-pitch pitcher, Doyle Alexander. An occasional slider. Sometimes that cut fastball looks like a slider, and that great change he has.
Against Toronto this year, Kansas City won 7 out of 12 regular season games. Another off-speed pitch, rolled to Fernandez at short. Little flip, pulled Upshaw off the bag, but he got the tag.
Whoops. We're going to argue again, folks. Frank White, Jose Martinez. Out pops Dick Hauser.
They've changed the ruling.
Ernie Witt, I believe, is going to argue, too, saying that he went out of the baseline avoiding the tags, and that'll bring Bobby Cox out. I don't know who called the play. The first base umpire, Davey Phillips, was watching the bang-bang play in the bag. Perhaps he got help from the home plate umpire. I don't know if the right field umpire got involved in it or not, saying that he missed the tag.
This is something the Fernandez detractors can point to, though, Tony. He has a tendency to throw on the run like this. When he has time to set up, he pulls Upshaw off the bag. Now, let's see if he misses him or not. The initial call from Dave Phillips was out, and then he got help from the plate umpire, Darryl Cousins, and reversed it.
I would say he didn't tag him for this reason. Watch
missed him.
Upshaw. Watch Upshaw, because he takes off after him again. Frank White is coming back in. If he touched the bag the first time, he didn't have to come back and retouch because he was already safe.
The second look showed pretty clearly that he missed it.
Davey Phillips is asking, and look at the side. That was a great replay from that right field camera shooting right down the line. He misses him. Bobby Cox is arguing he went out of the line. When there's a tag being made, an attempt, you've got, now they estimate 3 feet. You will see You be the judge. Did he go 3 feet out of the baseline? No. Upshot takes off. Now, Davey calls him out, but he then asks another umpire. Watch the home plate umpire. Did he tag him? Safe. Darrell Cousins makes the call. Cox contends he went out of the baseline, so there's a base runner for the Royals. An outstanding play. Whoops. An outstanding play by Frank White to evade the tag.
And an outstanding play by a couple of security guards down the right field line. And not only do they capture the offender, but they wrap her in a blanket for the sake of modesty, much to the dismay of most of the multitude here.
They've got to have a standard rule in ballparks to just really assess a very heavy fine and get the backing of the legal arm in the various cities. So an error will be charged to Tony Fernandez. Yes, he does throw on the run a lot. He is not off balance when he throws. The center of gravity is always underneath them, but once in a while that ball dives. Sometimes it takes off, and it just dove and ran into the runner, and Upshaw couldn't make the tag. Nice play by White, though, to avoid it.
Biancalana had a single his first time, tries to bunt, and it's foul. Well, these Blue Jays fans are in no mood to accord the umpires the benefit of the doubt based upon what they've seen and what's been written through the first 5 games. But in this instance, there's no question the umps got it right.
You bet. And there's one rule at the end of the book, instruction to the umpires. Even though Davey Phillips said out, he got it right ultimately by asking Darrell Cousins. That's what it says. Make sure you get the play right, and they did.
Threw that one by Biancalana for strike 2. He got Biancalana. He tipped it. Witt held it.
Alexander's one of those pitchers, and you mentioned earlier that it doesn't bother him pitching with 3 days reps. On occasion, he likes to throw a lot anyway. In fact, he's got, along with Al Widmar, who's from the old school also, he's the pitching coach, most of the pitchers on this staff throwing a lot between starts to strengthen their arms. Bamberger does that too. A running fastball, just over 85, but he had good movement on it.
Lonnie Smith has flied out twice.
The way Doyle Alexander can move the ball in the strike zone, and the movement on the ball and the change of speeds discredits the radar gun an awful lot. Velocity ranked at about 4th on the list of things the pitcher's got to have.
Movement, change of pace, location. Those would rank in front of it.
Unless you're a young Tom Seaver or a young Nolan Ryan, you can throw the ball 95, 98 miles an hour.
Or your basic Dwight Gooden, and you combine it with that wicked deuce. It's almost illegal, or at least it should be. Strike 1 to Lonnie Smith. Another off-speed pitch, swung on and missed. And then there are those pitchers who seem to crumble when misplays are made behind them. Everyone looks at earned run averages. There are some pitchers who consistently give up more unearned runs than average because they come apart at the seams when everything doesn't go right. Alexander isn't one of those. One-two pitch. Up high.
Sometimes you might see Doyle Alexander, after Ernie Witt gives a sign and then the location, he'll rub his glove down across his chest. It's a system the Dodgers and some other teams use, addition and subtracting, a way of not shaking a guy off, but changing the pitch number.
Runner goes. Smith swings and misses. And it's the 4th strikeout for Alexander.
False start by Frank White. He had a player out of position. That play at first base again. Tony Fernandez flips it wild. The umpires get it right. The important thing, not out of the baseline. That's what Cox ordered. Or that's what Cox was talking about. So, it wasn't an out. Darrell Cousins changed it.
Al Oliver in the bottom of the 4th. Swings and misses at Gubicza's first offering. Oliver has been known to hand out business cards that say Mr. Line Drive. When he played at Montreal, his teammates often called him Mr. Hall because of all the talk he engaged in about his chances to make it to Cooperstown. In the air to shallow center. Biancalana back, Wilson in, and it's Willett.
Mark Gubicza came out of spring training as really the 5th starter for Dick Hauser, and
Number 11.
he struggled early in that starting spot up until about June 8th. He was 1-4 ERA, just under 5, and then in June, when he was put in the regular rotation, he took off, went 5-1, excellent ERA, and to ask a young kid like Gubicza to do that, not be in the regular rotation, is awfully tough. It's tough to ask a veteran to do that, not get consistent work.
Willie Wilson has a single in this game. That nudged him ahead of Bell for overall honors. It was Willie's 9th hit of the series. He tried to overthrow that one a little bit.
You can hear him grunting all the way up here, can't you? Now, I think he's one of those guys you're not going to change. Throwing hard is not his problem when he starts muscling the ball.
You could hear that groan again.
He is throwing hard. Those last few pitches to Ball were about as hard as he's thrown anything. He was very upset at Ball. The game when Ball raised the 2 fingers to Bud Black, and Gubicza wanted to get in the ball game. Pitches some of the right-handed hitters.
He takes care of Bell, and that's the best form of revenge.
Did you see him almost stare down Ball after he threw that last pitch? A cut fastball that really took off.
The catcher, number 12.
This is the hardest he's thrown so far in this game. Take that, George Bell. Look at him. He's glaring at him. And Bell's been swinging the bat well. That 5th game in Kansas City, remember Wilson made that great catch into the center field wall. He hit about 4 balls right on the nose.
It's the 2nd strikeout for Gubicza. By the way, I shortchanged Alexander in that department during the last half inning. Doyle has 5 through 4 innings of work, not 4 as I had said. Witt with 2 out and nobody on. It's going to be a 1-2-3 inning. Balboni will do it himself. So after 4, we're tied at a deuce, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
At second base, Al Cowens. At first base, Jim Wolford. Now here is George Brett.
Talked to George yesterday, and he said he doesn't try to go for home runs unless the situation warrants it. He represents a tying run.
Brad Jackson's fastball is high and tight.
There's no quit in this team, and George Brett, the best hitter in the American League, has hit .362 with men on base throughout the year 1976. You couldn't have a better man up.
High drive, hit to right field.
Home run.
It's gone.
There it is.
The ball game is tied.
Certain situations, like he said, he doesn't like to look for pitches because it takes away from his greatest asset of just hitting the ball hard in particular spots. But there he is. I said it earlier, he made an error. What did I say? I'm no gospel, but I think I know athletes. It'll make him a better hitter when he comes back to the plate. Take a look at the little short porch over there. George Brett. You might not be a scientific hitter, George, but you can do it.
Well, not necessarily. That pitch is hit high in the air and deep to right. It is gone in the upper deck for Brett.
It's always nice to brief you folks in advance. The very thing we were talking about.
Deep to right center. Holy cow, that ball is gone. Brett has homered his first 2 times up in this playoff series. What a shot that was over the center field fence, well over 400 feet.
It appeared that way. We'll have a look at it. George Brett hits it to right field and did 3 in a row. Yes! Incredible!
What a performance!
Yeah, it's a pretty good sign. President Brett declares war on the Yankees.
He hit that one well. And that ball is gone. Well, he said he wasn't swinging the bat well, but he got the ball out of the plate and drilled it over the wall in deep left center field. And the Royals now lead 5-2.
Outfield deep at every position now with George Brett at the plate. Set by Gossage. A high drive hit deep to right field. It is gone. 3-run home run by George Brett into the third tier of Yankee Stadium. And Brett has taken the Royals and put them in front. Put them in front here in the 7th inning. The Royals now lead it 4-2. And a stunned crowd here at Yankee Stadium in New York as Brett being patted on the back by Gordy McKenzie and the welcoming party at home plate as the Royals lead by a pair of runs.
A ball and a strike to Brett. Wow. Well hit deep right. If it stays fair, the Royals are in front. And they are. Home run Brett. Alexander has to come to him in this situation. Wilson at first, nobody out. Well hit to left center. Back goes Mosby, along with Bell. Forget it! Home run Brett! Game 6 of the 1985 American League Championship Series is brought to you by Mr. Goodwrench and Genuine General Motors parts. And by IBM typewriters. No matter how you look at typing, we're your type. And we're looking at Exhibition Stadium from the Goodyear blimp overhead. Willie Wilson, George Brett, and Hal McRae to face Doyle Alexander in the 5th. Now, we talked about how Alexander had been 1-9 with the Yankees, ERA over 6 at the time he was released. So in retrospect, really, George Steinbrenner can't be faulted for that one. Alexander was pitching very poorly and at one point in frustration broke his hand pounding it against the dugout wall. Then when he came to the Blue Jays, he lost his first 6 in a Toronto uniform. Since then, he's 42-17. That's since August of 1983. That overall record for Bobby Cox includes a stint in Atlanta when Cox was the manager of the Braves.
September and his 2 starts in October, he had 5 complete ball games. When asked before his first start about how he liked pitching in cool weather, he's indicated he likes warmer. He said, well, unfortunately, they're not scheduling this in Hawaii, so I'll pitch where they put me.
With a potential 4 of the 7 games of the World Series in Toronto, if they make it as the American League representative, and with all World Series games at night this year, we could be talking about some serious chilly weather in the Fall Classic, which should truly be a fall affair.
He tried to slash that ball by Munlich, paying tight, and now all of a sudden Bobby Cox gets his bullpen up. Dennis Lamp, who has been so good all year long, is up for the Blue Jays. There is Munlich down at third. He just tried to lash one by him on the last pitch. And that's what he does. When he sees a guy leading over the plate, he can get him out inside. Dennis Lamp, has he been brilliant so far in this League Championship Series, the times he's had? It's been one of the strengths of this ball club, the depth in their bullpen, and not from where he expected it.
That's John Sullivan, the bullpen coach down there with him. He's the guy who made Dan Quisenberry a relief pitcher back in 1975 at A-ball. There's Sullivan with the warm-up jacket at Waterloo, Iowa. Took a mediocre starter and started him on the road toward a brilliant career out of the bullpen. Took something off, and Willie Wilson just waves at it and becomes the 6th strikeout victim for Alexander.
So he uses a circle change to get Wilson on the strikeout. Look at it go down. Sometimes it'll go away. He'd thrown him some fastballs he'd fouled off. Got a call strike fastball at the belt and inside. Now let's see if he throws George Brett a strike in a 2-2 ball game. He may just stay outside 6 inches off the plate.
This is the first time Brett has hit without Wilson aboard in front of him in this ball game. Notice that George doesn't use a batting glove, the old-fashioned skin on wood. Not too many hitters go that route anymore. 1-1. That bat is the old Marv Throneberry model, which when Throneberry used it was a model T85 coming out of the Louisville Slugger plant. But after Brett hit .390 in 1980 with it, they changed its name to the T390. Throneberry hit .237 lifetime with the same instrument.
Watch how relaxed Brett is. That's one of his secrets, hitting in the clutch, too. Puts right down the middle. Doyle Alexander challenged him. Down the middle or a little bit inside part of the plate.
Alexander appears to have more hop on his ball than he had Friday night in Game 3 when he was pitching on 5 days rest.
A little crisper.
In the air to right center. Back goes Mosby, along with Barfield. It is gone. We had to wait. The umpire came all the way out, almost to the wall, before giving the signal. It's the third home run of the series for Brett. All of them off Doyle Alexander.
Now, why would you want to pitch to him in a tie ball game? After he's hurt you badly, a prior timeout. Doyle Alexander knows he's one of the smartest pitchers in the game. Took something off after he'd thrown a fastball by Brett. A quiet Blue Jay bench. The wind helped us. It was going almost toward dead center. The wind pushed it to the short part of the ballpark in right center field. It's a kind of home run you see in Exhibition Stadium. That isn't even a mistake. Any other ballpark, that ball, maybe not Seattle. So George gets a little bit of help from the wind.
There's Lynn Jones smiling along with him, reserve outfielder. McRae hits it hard but foul. That is the 9th League Championship Series home run for George Brett. He's now alone in first place in Major League history in that department. Steve Garvey had 8 in the National League.
And this is not to discredit George Brett's home run, but boy, you don't have to hit a ball well to right center or right field in this ballpark.
It just looked like a long fly ball off the bat, and the wind kept pushing it out.
Both Mosby and Barfield started directly at each other like it was going to be about 25 to 30 feet short of the warning track. And then the wind caught it.
For the third time tonight, Kansas City has a 1-run lead.
That's what it's doing. High atop the scoreboard down the right field line.
McRae puts this one just over Fernandez. And Hal McRae is now 3 for 3. 2 singles and a double.
He didn't hit it well. Got it up on the 5th. Alexander tried to come in on him. Tony Fernandez, the young Dominican shortstop. Yeah, it's a little bit cool and windy, and that stung.
The temperature has dropped 3 or 4 degrees since the start of the game. It's now officially at 50. Pat Sheridan. Ball 1 to him.
It's not a bad day, though. It's not unpleasant. You get a lot worse days than this in the spring of the year in a lot of cities in the north, whether it's New York or Detroit, Milwaukee.
Well, if it stays like this through the World Series, if the Blue Jays make it, nobody can complain.
That'd be great.
It's been worse than this, as you say.
Average temperature in October is right around 47 or 48 up here in Toronto.
Sheridan hits it off the fist and foul. Somebody asked Hauser why Sheridan swung at the first pitch from Dave Stieb after Hal McRae had walked with the bases loaded to force in a run in Game 4. That was after the intentional walk with a man on first to George Brett, and Hauser said, hey, I didn't have Eddie Goodell up there. I had my number 5 hitter. Referring, of course, to the midget, Eddie Goodell, sent up to the plate by Bill Veeck for the St. Louis Browns 3.5 decades ago.
Wasn't that a great story told by Al Widmar, who was on that team? And he said, we all thought when Eddie Goodell was sent up, we thought he was the bat boy to get the bats. All of a sudden he stepped in. Nobody could believe it. They called time and said, who is this?
Al Widmar, the Jays pitching coach on the Browns team that year.
Only 2 people knew of it. Bob Fischel, now an assistant to Lee McPhail, was with the Yankees at one time, and with Mr. Veeck. They signed that contract in the car. Since that day, all the contracts have to be approved by the league offices before a guy can get a bat or a glove in his hand in competition.
With a midget clause. I thought the funniest story to come out of that whole incident, Goodell comes up to the plate, the few fans on hand at Sportsman's Park for the Browns game, laughing hysterically, the players staring in disbelief, and Bob Swift, tell you more after this pitch to Sheridan, which is lofted to right field, and Barfield calls and has it for the second out. Bob Swift, the Tiger catcher, goes out to the mound to confer with pitcher Bob Kane. Now, imagine the bizarre scene. Here's a midget about 3 feet tall. He's settled into the batter's box. He's wearing a fraction for a number, 1/8, I think. He sets up with a tiny toy bat in a stance reminiscent of DiMaggio. And Swift is at the mound, looks at Kane, looks back at Goodell, waiting to be pitched to, and then offers Kane this advice. Pitch him low.
They want to pitch this guy high with fastballs. They think he's got blind spots right upstairs. Both high and tight and maybe away. And that's the pitch, really, that Lee May, the hitting instructor for the Royals, has tried to get him to lay off of. But he stands so straight up and he's so big, a pitcher can get that pitch above the belt on him. Watch the wind.
Barfield has it in his sights. And now in his glove. But KC is on top again. And as so often happens, it's Brett who's done the damage.
Needed a series of exercises to the Blue Jays theme song.
Alexander and his tormentor. They managed to win in Game 5 Sunday at Kansas City without a home run, or for that matter, a hit from Brett. But in the last 6 games in which Brett has homered, the Royals have come out on top, including 5 regular season games in the last week when he really turned it on as they made their push for the division title. Barfield swings and misses. He'll be followed by Fernandez and Garcia in the last of the 5th. The first 2 times the Royals took the lead with runs in the 1st and in the 3rd. The Blue Jays immediately came back to tie it with runs in the bottom half.
He's bringing it. You know, Brett, as we saw him, hit another home run off Alexander. He led the American League in slugging percentage. Don Mattingly was 2nd, and the fellow in the batter's box batting against Gubicza right now, Jesse Barfield, was 3rd.
3-2 pitch. Popped up. White back. 1 out.
I guess about 9 of every 10 pitches that Mark Gubicza has thrown so far in this ballgame have been fastballs with a little different action on them. He's maybe thrown a couple of change-ups and just a few sliders.
Gubicza says his mom dearly wanted him to attend college, and if he had, it would have been Duke, but he wanted to give professional baseball a try. Looks like the right choice. Grounded to Frank White, and he throws Fernandez out.
You can't go up there just looking for a riding fastball. Sundberg has made him change and sink it.
The second baseman, number 7, Damaso Garcia.
Garcia has doubled and walked. It was he who came to the defense of George Bell, fellow Dominican, after Bell got himself involved in the controversy, criticizing the umpires. He says, look, George doesn't have complete command of the language. He tends to be emotional. He's really a very nice fella. He's maturing. All you people will view him differently in a couple of years. Give him the benefit of the doubt.
They have swung around as hard as Gubicza is throwing. Willie Wilson over toward right center field. They don't feel that these right-handers can pull Gubicza with that speed he's got.
A little bit of a let-up, 2-1. He swings at the 3-1 pitch, hits it softly to right, and Sheridan will retire him.
Still couldn't get out in front of the fastball, and it was 3-1.
So Gubicza sets them down in order, and for the first time tonight, the Royals have a lead at the end of an inning. The aerial camera platform is provided by the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. This is the 60th consecutive year that the Goodyear blimps have covered major sporting events, which even gives them an edge on our own Harry Coyle. Airship captain tonight is James Maloney from Vienna, Virginia. Harry Coyle directing the National League Championship Series, working with Vin and Joe. Game 6 tomorrow at 3 Eastern Time from Dodger Stadium.
This crowd has settled in now that the Royals have taken the 1-run lead and become very quiet. Once again, not a full house. Center field, and those are not ideal seats, but when the Yankees were here for the closing series, they set a park record for 47,000. So 39,000 for League Championship Series game number 1. 34 the next day. They're pricing it out of the market, folks. $33 Canadian for the most expensive seat. Those you can't see from are about 16 bucks. And if the World Series gets you, the most expensive seat they're talking about will be $52. And you got to buy a strip of 4. Try and take your family for those prices.
Part of the reason why the makeup of a postseason crowd doesn't always exactly reflect your regular season fandom. And that's true not just here, but in the States.
They drew just under 2.5 million here at Exhibition Stadium, a park that is not made for baseball.
2-1 pitch to Sundberg, fouled off. They'll have a new ballpark, probably in time for 1989. And they're talking about a retractable dome.
They still haven't broken ground. They talked about that way back in March. I don't know if it's a political football or what, but still waiting.
Full count to Sundberg. This is the 3rd time Sundberg has led off an inning as he starts the 6th. You know, I asked Pat Gillick, the vice president, why they would have to have artificial surface in a new place if it had a retractable dome. Fought it off and hit it foul because obviously the only redeeming feature of artificial surface is that it prevents rainouts. He said, well, even if we don't share it with a football team, there will be other events. Trade shows, rock concerts, and whatnot. We'll need the artificial surface. A disappointment for the purists. A walk to Sundberg.
Alexander very upset with home plate umpire Darrell Cousins. Rarely do you see him yell in at an umpire, and he just did. He thought he had the outside part of the plate. Thought he had him struck out. There is one more redeeming feature. There's Darrell Cousins, home plate umpire, as the bullpen gets going. Pat Gillick, the architect of this team, has tried to build his club like Whitey Herzog has for the artificial surface, like Kansas City did a few years ago before some of the bones got older. And that's what you see on the field. There's Dennis Lamp up again. Gary LaValle also up. He got another surface cortisone shot a couple of days ago. Feels that his elbow's okay. But they're signing a lot of kids for their speed in the Toronto Blue Jays organization. And they want to have that on artificial surface. They think it's a faster game.
Makes sense. Here's White. Possible sacrifice. He squares, doesn't offer. Witt looked down at first where Sundberg had strayed a good bit off the bag, but there was nobody there to cover. Already approaching the century mark. We're in the top of the 6th.
First 2 times up, Frank White did not swing the bat well with that damaged right hand, the top hand, so the bunt is almost obvious.
And he gets it down. Upshaw's play is to first. Garcia covering. Successful sacrifice.
So even though moved down in the lineup, Frank White to the number 8 spot with a damaged right hand, he still contributes by advancing a base runner. Mullix moves up at 3rd in case Biancalana tries to beat a bunt out. Get a 1st and 3rd.
Biancalana hits it pretty well into right center field, and hello, Buddy Biancalana. A run is home, and Biancalana wants a triple, and that's just what he's got.
This could be about the end of Doyle Alexander. 9-hitter drives a run home. You got to start thinking that his stuff may be going, his control may be going. They had shaded Biancalana over toward left field. It was an unusual pitch. You think if they're going to pitch him away and throw him fastballs because they were playing that way, but it looked like an off-speed pitch. Trying to get Biancalana. He turned it over like a sinker ball, and Mosby was playing toward left center field, and the gap was right where he hit it. And then Barfield can't pick it up. Mosby has to help him out. And the crowd here gets even quieter. They're calling for Dennis Lamp.
What a sweet moment for Buddy Biancalana.
Look at Alexander still yelling at Darrell Cousins. He's all over him. The umpire's in hot water again. Look at this. And Cox is right in on it. They are screaming at him.
Lamp on his way in. Alexander has been knocked out, ineffective for the 2nd time in the series. We'll be back. All All of Doyle Alexander's postseason memories are unpleasant. In his one World Series appearance in 1976 for the Yanks, he loses to Cincinnati 5-1. Here he places part of the blame on plate umpire Darrell Cousins, and as we went away to commercial, he gave him a rather profane chewing out.
Well, he was upset not just on the 3-2 call that walked Sundberg. He was upset on the first pitch call that he thought was a strike also to Sundberg. So Lamb comes on. Infield in.
Ball 1 to Lonnie Smith. In the league championship series, Alexander, as a 23-year-old, lost to Oakland in his only appearance and was hit hard. Was hit hard in Game 3 in this series at Kansas City, and a 6th-inning exit tonight.
Keep your eye on Buddy Biancalana.
Nothing's on. Check swing foul.
He has that hard sinker and that very quick short slider. Now 3-2. You don't look for anything. Smith just trying to get the ball to the outfield. Sacrifice fly.
He does better than that. A fair ball, another run home. Smith never hesitates. Barfield juggles it, and he's in at second base.
So Lonnie Smith becoming a factor. That's what Hauser needs. He had a good pitch, too. It was a tough slider. It was down in the strike zone, and he just tried to put it in play. Upshaw was off the line. Look at where that pitch is. A check sway. He got enough of it, and on the artificial surface, dirt and grass, he's gone, but he scores Biancalana.
The ruling, by the way, on Biancalana's hit earlier, a double and an error. That's off Willie Wilson's leg. Biancalana does get an RBI, but they figure that Barfield should have played it cleanly, and when he had trouble picking it up on the track, Biancalana went to third. So a double and an error, and the Jays, who had committed just one error in the series coming in tonight, have been guilty of 2 in this game.
So the number 9 hitter, which comes into play for your 3 hitter with a DH. You don't see as much bunting, many intentional walks to the 8th hitter. You do with a pitcher in the National League, but if Biancalana gets going, leave a little residue for George Brett out of the 3 spot.
Wilson ran up as if to bunt and took a ball 1-1. 5-2 Kansas City in the top of the 6th.
And that's where a left-handed hitter can help a base stealer down at second base out. If he fakes a bunt, he might draw the third baseman in and might not be able to get the back to the bag if Lonnie Smith tries to score, or rather tries to go to third.
In the air, let's see if it's playable. Fernandez racing over. Bell is there. Foul ground, Bell.
Well, George, go on down to first base.
Here is your basic foregone conclusion. The intentional walk.
Remember Game 2 here? Kansas City had a lead. Toronto came back, won it 6-5. Runs can come very easy in this ballpark, even if you don't make bad pitches. It is so good for hitters, and with the turf,
so Lonnie Smith takes his lead at second, Brett at first, and McRae hits it right back to Lamb. That'll do it in the Kansas City 6th. But doubles by Biancalana and Lonnie Smith produce 2 more. And the Royals looking to push this series and this American League season to its final day, lead 5-2. A very funny Canadian, Mr. John Candy, former SCTV mainstay, Saturday Night Live, motion picture fame.
His fans trying to rouse their Blue Jays. They've been very sluggish. Can't seem to find a handle on the ball several times today.
1-1 to Mosby, who'll be followed by Mullenix and Upshaw.
In fact, the Blue Jays today, the ball slipping out of their hand. They're playing a little bit like Kansas City in games 1 and 2 here.
Bobby Cox doesn't want to have to use Steve tomorrow in Game 7, but he's staring squarely at that possibility. Base hit for Mosby. Gary Blaylock, the pitching coach, begins a walk to the mound as action begins again in the Royal bullpen.
Bud Black down there again. He spent a lot of time in Game 5 at Kansas City, up and down and getting loose, and he was very hurriedly now getting a lot of tosses in as Blaylock was stalled for time. Black pitched well, allowed 2 earned runs in his start against the Blue Jays earlier. Bring a trip to the mound from home plate umpire Darrell Cousins to break the conference up, but before he gets there, like they usually do, they scatter. He cannot afford, Dick Hauser, to let Gubicza get in too much hot water. Let the Blue Jays off the canvas.
Hits it well into left center field. Back goes Willie Wilson, and on the warning track, he's got it. And his outstanding defensive play continues.
So wind killed it. That ball had plenty on it to be up against and maybe even out, but it was hit into that wind we talked about early, and Wilson's great speed tracks it down right on the warning track. Look at him look away and find the warning track in the fence. Mosby really should have tagged up on this and been on second base, take the double play possibly out. If it bounces, he gets the third, maybe scores if he misses it. Once he saw Wilson tracking it down, you see his reaction, that the wind killed it. He might have had a chance to get back and still tag up. Outstanding play once again by Willie.
And he was playing Mullenix fairly shallow and over toward right field. He had a long way to go.
He plays everybody shallow. And he can a little bit more now with the wind killing the ball in that area. He knows it.
Inside 2-1. Going into Game 5 with his team down 3-1, George Brett offered the opinion that the pressure was on the Blue Jays. He said Kansas City had nothing left to lose. They'd come out and play loose. Damaso Garcia, for one, scoffed at that. He said, who's he trying to kid? Well, if the Royals should win tonight, there's little doubt that although both clubs will feel pressure, more of it will be on the Blue Jays, with the series slipping away from them.
Well,
coming into Game 7.
I'm not sure of that because they're still in their home ballpark.
And they still got Steve.
And they got Steve with 3 days rest if it goes that far. And you got your last at-bats. And you got Hanke, who may not appear in this ballgame, but there's so many things to consider. Steve Farr, the right-hander, now has joined Bud Black, the left-hander.
But those are strategic realities as opposed to the psychology of the situation. They felt anxiety toward the end of the regular season. If they should lose tonight, but they're down to the crunch.
They responded to Yankee Stadium and in here too, so you're right, there's psychology, but I don't think the Blue Jays are going to get scared.
Well, from psychology to reality, the tying run is coming to the plate, and Dick Hauser knows it in the person of Al Oliver.
He also knows that if he brings Bud Black in, Cliff Johnson will probably pinch hit, but Cliff Johnson then would have to hit the ball if he goes to left field into that wind. Gubicza gave him, if he in fact, who's he going to go to now? Bud Black, I would think, which will bring Cliff Johnson. Second trip out, he's gone. Umpires now have made the signal. Black will come in. It'll be Cliff Johnson pinch hitting. And one swing of the bat, and he goes to right center well. It might tie it up. We'll be back as the game gets a little more exciting. Mosby's reaction to Willie Wilson's great catch on Mullenix.
A chilly night heats up in Toronto as Cliff Johnson, the tying run at the plate, comes out of the Blue Jay dugout in response to Bud Black out of the Royal bullpen.
Bud Black, who came into this season as the #1 starter for Dick Hauser, struggled along, had a big outing against the California Angels when they had to make their run, pitched well in his start in this league championship series. But boy, this Blue Jays pinch hitting has been something. They're 5 for 7 in this league championship series with 3 RBIs and a game winner by Oliver.
Obviously, Johnson is a very dangerous man here, but I'm sure Hauser is pleased with the exchange. The way the wind is blowing, the fact that Johnson is a little more likely to hit into a double play than Oliver, and also late in the game, if he wants to get to Quisenberry, Oliver, his tormentor, won't be there anymore.
One thing to throw at you, though, at this stage of Oliver and Johnson's career, Cliff Johnson a little more apt to hit the long ball. And he does have the percentage in his favor, left against right-handed hitter.
Black's first one.
This is the man that Pat Gillick says will be the difference in this Royals series. He said, you know, we did have trouble against left-handers, as Bobby Cox said also, but when we played Kansas City during the regular season, we never had Cliff Johnson's bat to help combat some of this left-handed pitching. Well, here's a chance for him.
That is through. One run scores. It's 5-3.
Behind, 3 balls and 1 strike. Not hit hard, but it looks to be picking up speed. So Cliff Johnson keeps the amazing pinch hitting record in this league championship series going. They are now 6 of 8 and another RBI.
Johnson now becomes the tying run at first base. George Bell. A little personal drama as well between Black and Bell. We're in the dirt. Sundberg can't get to it in time, and the tying runs are in scoring position.
Ball that Sundberg couldn't smother. Look at George Bell say, come on, it rolls far enough away. Upshaw had a nice walking lead, and he went in his third.
So the wild pitch increases Dick Hauser's discomfort. Popped up. Balboni in foul ground for the catch. Now it'll be Ernie Witt, with Johnson still at second, and Upshaw still at third. And the chant of Ernie, Ernie from the Toronto crowd. The fist, Sundberg off with the mask, and makes the catch. I thought for a moment, looking from behind the screen with the view obscured, that it might have just grazed the screen on the way down, but Sundberg had just enough room, and the Royals get out of it with a 2-run lead.
And I wonder, Bob, if the wind didn't get this ball back into a catchable spot. Blew it back in.
Back after these messages from your local station. Back in their defensive positions, Witt is the guy who fouled out to end the inning, but the bigger hitter was George Bell, now standing out in left field because he didn't need a hit. He could have produced a run with an out.
Infield was back. Ground ball might have gotten a run, gotten one closer to Kansas City. Fly ball would have scored one, but Black pitched well. He jammed George Bell, got the ball right where he wanted it. A little bit up, a little bit in.
Fielder number 15, Pat Sheridan.
Nice job by Black getting out of that the way he did with just 1 run.
Lamp, as you see, always pitches from the stretch, even at the start of an inning, and starts Sheridan with a strike. Broken bat. In comes Barfield in a hurry, and he gets there.
Dick Hauser wants to see tomorrow in a baseball uniform.
The first baseman, number 45.
Another broken bat. Barfield with that center field speed. He's not a blazer, but he's much better than average runner.
Balbone's 0 for 3 as he takes a ball, and as we again remind you that we'll select the NBC Light Beer for Miller Player of the Game at the conclusion of the contest. Two and one. You know, it's interesting. Speculating about a 7th game, which will happen if the Royals hold on here. You look at it from Toronto's perspective and you say, yeah, but they still have Steve, overlooking the fact that his likely opponent is also the likely Cy Young Award winner, Saberhagen, who was merely 20-6 during the year. Garcia squeezes it, and Balboni is history.
Ron Guidry will get his share of votes.
The catcher, number 8, Jim Sundberg.
The Saberhagen update, by the way, still no baby for Brett and Janine. Sundberg 0 for 2 with a walk.
You know, I believe Dave Steve's wife is back out in California. She's expecting their second child early in November. Jeff Burrow's wife expecting out in that same area.
Bounced up the middle. Garcia to his right from behind the bag. Got Sundberg.
Whoops.
And an argument from Martinez.
He looked like he started to flash the safe sign and then made sure, and the right hand popped up. So Martinez and Hauser out again. This time with Davey Phillips. There have been so many bang-bang calls in the league championship. Some miss, some not, but it'll show you the emotional level and the electricity of league championship play. Damo took a little bit of time with that bad knee. He couldn't plant and push off. I think he got him.
In any case, it's the first time the Royals have been retired in order all night.
Well, we'll put the first base umpire Davey Phillips under a magnifying glass again. Sundberg gets a good jump. Garcia really should have had him by a lot. The way that replay shows, his foot is on the bag. The ball was not yet in Upshaw's glove. Bang, bang, but that replay appeared to show that Sundberg was safe.
So now Black, who possibly would not have faced Barfield had he come up with the bases loaded in the last inning, will face him to start this one.
You know, this is almost getting to be cruel and unusual punishment with 4 different replays from 3-4 different angles.
Even so, more often than not, the umpire's judgment will be vindicated. Brett comes in, short hop, tough play, and he can't make it.
The ball goes from the turf to the dirt cutoff, and it's not always the same hop. You can see the ball stayed down lower. He tried to charge it and smother it instead of waiting back, because with Barfield's speed, if he waits back, he has no chance anyway. A tough play for George, assuming they're going to give him an error.
They do give him an error. It's his second of the series.
And it's a lot worse when it happens to the leadoff hitter. Or it can be a lot worse.
The Royals made 3 errors here in Game 2, and the Blue Jays capitalized on every one of them.
And in the 7th inning, George Brett is tight now up close in case Fernandez tries to keep something going with a bunt, but he's also guarding the line, you notice. He doesn't want Fernandez to hit the double down the line because he is the tying run. It's the 7th inning.
Possible double play. 1, 2. And that quickly quiets the exhibition stadium crowd.
Nice running fastball. Bud Black's fastball is lively tonight. He just stayed outside. And then when you start looking outside for the tailing fastball, he's got that slider and curveball. He can come inside.
Garcia 1 for 2 with a walk, takes high.
People have wondered why the Blue Jays have so much trouble with left-handed pitchers. And of course, the obvious reasons are Mullick and Ernie Witt and Mosby and Upshaw cut the running game. But the young right-handed hitters, the power hitters who should feast in this ballpark, like Bell and Barfield, and you saw Barfield do it earlier. 3-2, a sinking running fastball. He tried to pull it. And it is so ideal if you're right-handed and strong to hit the opposite way. But they want to pull it all the time, and the ball's tailing away. On the other hand, they hit right-handers better because the fastball's coming in, and every once in a while they get that hanging curveball that they can pull. A left-hander like Black is not as easy to pull as a lot of right-handers.
3-1 now. Draws his second walk of the game. That alone is an upset.
And Lloyd Mosby, who's been somewhat of a nemesis to the Royals and Dick Hauser, coming up. He's 2 for 3. Run scored. RBI on the ground out, and he's been in the middle of a lot of things in this series, even though he hasn't had a whole lot of hits. He's got the wind going to right field if he can get out in front of that on those tailing fastballs.
He hit 18 during the regular season. Strike 1 to him.
Garth Orge has come on deck. We'll bat for Mulnix if Mosby keeps something going.
The only potentially important bat he hasn't used in this series, Jeff Burroughs. Burroughs was on deck when Cecil Fielder grounded out to end Game 5. Burroughs would have hit for Fernandez in that instance if they could have gotten the tying run to the plate. High and away for a ball. There's Jeff Burroughs.
He was the DH earlier this year. Bobby Cox remembered what he had done for him at Atlanta when he had over 40 home runs, and he said, "We lost Cliff Johnson. I think Burroughs can still do it." Didn't produce the power, but he got a lot of important walks and key base hits, but they want more run production than he gave them. They went out and got Johnson and Oliver.
Two and two. Inside, count full, and Garcia will be running.
Black is walking off the mound like he'd gone all the way, and Sundberg asked for the appeal down to the third base umpire, Jim Evans. He gave the safe sign, so he stays alive again. A fastball high and tight, a bad pitch. Good call by Jim Evans. Look at Sundberg, he's trying to steal one. They're guarding the lines at the corners and deep in the outfield. Keep Mosby out of scoring position. Look at Brett, even for a left-handed hitter.
There goes the runner, and that's ball 4.
And Black walking off into the dugout again. He thought the slider had the corner. Look at him looking in at the home plate umpire, Cousins. Now, folks, all of these aren't good pitches. Sundberg starts in, Black starts in. It was a good pitch, a pitcher's pitch,
Third baseman Rance Mulnix
that Cousins gave to the hitter Mosby. That is almost too close to take. You wonder how you can take a slider. He's looking fastball 3-2, obviously. They thought it was a perfect pitch, but perhaps this time the Blue Jays got the break.
Almost every time Bobby Cox has pushed a button when it comes to pinch hitters, he's hit the jackpot. 6 of 8 have come through for him. Here's the ninth, Garth Orge, batting for Mullinix. Tying runs aboard in the 7th. Slow curve for a strike. Did he go around? Check down at first. Yes, says Dave Phillips.
Garth Orge has generated a little more power this year than any year in the past. A breaking ball that just keeps biting. The center field camera looked like it was going to hang, but that rotation was so tight, really broke and fooled Orge.
Black's got it. And the Blue Jays come away empty. No runs, no hits. There was an error and a couple of walks. 2 are left, and it's still the Royals by 2.
The following message furnished by Major League Baseball.
Set your sights on the best in baseball. Order the 1985 World Series program. It's chock full of facts with World Series rosters and history and more than 100 pages of articles and photographs, making the World Series program a collector's item, and it's the same one sold at the ballpark. Send $6 check or money order to World Series Program, Box 8585, Trenton, New Jersey, 08650. That's Box 8585, Trenton, New Jersey.
Temperature now in the high 40s. Joe Beckwith. Well, that's the official temperature, but that's what it was officially a couple of innings ago, and I'm sure it's colder now. The Quiz alongside Beckwith, and they are ready for any conditions.
Snowmobiling. Not that cold, guys. Because if you're a pitcher, you want to keep the feel of the ball, especially Beckwith, the breaking ball pitcher. Bullpen is going now for Toronto. Jim Acker on the right and Laval on the left for a reason maybe to get one hitter. Laval, the left-hander. Brett is the 5th scheduled hitter. If something's going, we could see Laval.
Lamp's first pitch misses to Frank White to start the 8th inning.
Show you how far ahead managers have to think.
1-1. Right up to the minute in League Championship Series competition, and this includes a stint with the White Sox against the Orioles in 1983. Lamp has worked 9 1/3 innings, yielded 2 hits, no runs. White beat out a bunt in Game 5 in Kansas City. Couldn't get that one down. 1-2. On deck, Babe Biancalana. Babe, swing and a miss. And Lamp dispatches White. Well, to Doyle Alexander, he's Babe Biancalana. He took him to the wall in right center with a very costly extra base hit from Alexander's point of view his last time up.
That was the inning where Doyle was very upset when Sundberg walked in the 6th, leading it off. A couple of questionable calls.
One and 1 to Biancalana with 1 out on the top of the 8th. 5-3 Kansas City.
You always think of a hitting instructor, Lee May in this case for Kansas City, of working with the sluggers because that's what he was. But he is really starting to do a job with Biancalana. They may not need a shortstop next year if his hitting keeps progressing. That little close stance and crouch.
2-2 in the bottom of the 8th for Toronto. Upshaw, Cliff Johnson, and George Bell.
Lee May. He would get that bat going. Didn't walk much at all. Strike out 100 plus, but a lot of 90 and 100 RBI seasons in the major leagues.
Lamp opens the 8th by fanning both White and Biancalana. Here's the lineup following the ball game, except out on the West Coast. You'll get your late local news, then the Tonight Show, and late night with David Letterman. Lonnie Smith. 1 for 4, but his one was a big one, a run-producing double in the 6th.
You might recall that Willie Wilson, just about his entire career, was the leadoff hitter for the Royals, but Mike Ferraro and Dick Hauser talked it over, felt Lonnie had the better on-base percentage. They put him in the leadoff spot. That's one thing that Widmar's got Lamp doing also, Bob. There's Willie Wilson hitting in the 2 spot behind Lonnie Smith. But Lamp used to be strictly with the seam sinker, and Widmer said, look, you throw hard enough or strong enough, force seam it once in a while. Go upstairs. You can strike somebody out. He did.
And he strikes out on the side, getting Smith looking.
The guy's been something all year long.
So Lamp's mastery out of the bullpen, especially in playoff competition, continues. And a good year it has been for both these ball clubs, on the verge of pushing it to the final ball game for the right to go to the World Series. Black to Upshaw for a called strike, with Lonnie Smith making the last out on the top half of the inning. Lynn Jones goes in for defense in left field. One and one, and it comes as no surprise that the Quiz is up in the bullpen, buoyed by the knowledge that Oliver has taken a shower. Swing and a miss, 1-2. Popped foul with Brett over, no chance. Cox thought he'd have the division clinch long before he did. He might have thought he'd have a ticket to the World Series before now, or certainly by tonight. It begins to look as if he'll have to go right to the wire. But each time they've been pushed, the Blue Jays have responded. Out of play again.
Upshaw now cut his swing down, just trying to get his bat on the ball. He's thrown some good sliders and had a good fastball. Brett Saberhagen struggled his first outing, got banged off the foot. The heel's okay. He's ready to go tomorrow if there is a tomorrow for the Royals.
Another foul out of play. And again, I find it peculiar. And both of us sort of looked at it this way, that you think of the Blue Jays as the team with the ace in the hole with Steve coming back, yet this guy was 20-6. I guess the prevailing feeling has something to do with the way Steve has pitched in his two outings, the win in Game 1 and a strong performance in a no decision in Game 4. Upshaw with a weak swing, and Black gets him on strikes.
Well, Steve was awesome in Game 1. Next time out on 3 days rest, Ernie Witt said, I thought he had better stuff. Although he walked a bunch, he allowed just the 2 hits to Willie Wilson. He will come back again with 3 days rest if there is a tomorrow.
Saberhagen, for his part, was hit hard in a no decision against Oakland in the game where the Royals wound up clinching the division. Second to last game of the regular season, and couldn't hold a 5-2 lead at home Friday night in Game 3.
It's been an amazing thing about the Royals, and it isn't just this year. McRae said they play best only when they have to, but last year when they played California in September, 3 out of 4 rookie starters. In that series against the Angels, McNamara then, they did it under pressure. This year again, second-year players, pitchers, do it again, beat them 3 or 4 when they had to.
Another base hit for him.
Breaking ball.
And George Bell becomes the tying run at the plate.
We'll be right back to guarding the lines at the corner. Balboni will probably play behind Cliff Johnson. Quiz down in the bullpen is getting hotter and hotter if needed. He'd like to give Hauser a good outing if he's needed at one time in this league championship series. He has struggled. Look at Brett right on the line. Balboni behind Cliff Johnson with 1 out. Protect the gap and the line.
Last time, Bell came to the plate with runners at first and second. Black Wild pitched them to second and third, and then got Bell to foul out to Balboni.
They have anybody on this staff who throws less than 90 miles an hour? Black's doing it right now. Gubicza, Danny Jackson, Lee Brandt doesn't, of course.
How about the Quiz?
Yeah. I mean the starting rotation.
1-1. At this point, everybody's a reliever. Cecil Fielder is on deck. He will bat for Ernie Witt.
The bench of Bobby Cox stronger than that of Dick Hauser. You look at almost any area except starting pitching, and the Blue Jays have had an edge on paper.
In the air to shallow right with Sheridan coming on, and he gets to it.
And that's not to say that they don't have a little bit of an edge in starting pitching, because they led the American League, the Blue Jays, in team ERA. Kansas City was second, but the Blue Jays led in the team ERA in this little bandbox. Long run for Sheridan.
Batting for the catcher, Ernie Witt.
Lane toward right center fielder for Bell, and we get a trip from Gary Blaylock. To go over the scouting reports, how to pitch to Cecil Fielder. Fielder, formerly a product of the Kansas City Royals organization. We're going to go over the book. Even got a smile from Bud Black.
Fielder has had 2 at-bats in the series, both as a pinch hitter. He doubled his first time, and then he grounded to Balboni to end Game 5 and complete Danny Jackson's shutout in Kansas City Sunday. For the season in 74 at-bats, Fielder hit .311. He had 4 home runs. Ball 1 to Fielder.
Now, Willie Wilson has moved back in center field, with Fielder representing the tying run. And that's deep for Willie Wilson. There's still some room behind him, but ordinarily he's 25, 30 feet shallower.
In left field, Jones is just a couple of strides from the warning track.
He's got blue paint on his tail.
Well, it'll blend with the uniform. 2-1.
This kid, Cecil Fielder, has outstanding power straight away.
In fact, we saw him get his first big league hit in August here, a double off the wall in dead center. 2-2. Cliff Johnson, who singled with 1 out, is at first now with 2 gone. Fielder is the tying run at the plate. 5-3 Kansas City, bottom half of the 8th. Quiz still throwing in the pen. Black has worked only 2 1/3 innings and yet is approaching 60 pitches. That wing's got to be mighty tired considering all the warming up he did on Sunday without getting in the game. He gets Fielder. So Black has nursed the lead into the 9th. And it's an awfully quiet Blue Jay nest. The prospect of Game 7 drawing closer. Game 6 in the National League tomorrow. Scheduled starters: Joaquin Andahar for the Cards, Oral Hershiser. Game 2 winner will go for the Dodgers, and he's been invincible this season at Dodger Stadium. They need him to come through again to force a 7th game. And unless the Blue Jays rally here in the 9th inning, there will be a 7th game in the American League. Dave Steve for certain for the Blue Jays. The likely starter for Kansas City, Brett Saberhagen.
All Steve has done in his first 2 starts, he's 1-0, but his ERA of .61. He has struck out 14 and 14 2/3. Given up just 5 hits. Saberhagen scheduled to start tomorrow. Again, if we go to 7 and the Blue Jays don't come back. He got battered around by the Blue Jays earlier in the season and did again in his only start in his league championship series.
Wilson, Brett, and McRae. Chopper down to Upshaw. Quick first out.
And, of course, the new young catcher, Jeff Herron. We've got some bright catching prospects, Herron and George Brett stepping in now.
Let's look back to the 5th inning. His homer off Doyle Alexander. And Brett has hit a lot of balls harder than this one. A high fly ball. It gets caught up in the wind. Barfield and Mosby back to the wall, and it clears it by just a little bit.
You know, I think Brett is a smart enough hitter, and yes, he did have help on that, but he will use the ballpark. I know they always talked about Stan Musial in the old Sportsman Park. He would try to pull the ball more to get the ball on the roof. Brett knows the wind's blowing out. He went out and got a pitch outside. Yes, he did get it in the wind, but he will take advantage of situations like that.
Or a Wally Moon, who made a career out of just firing them off that short screen in the Coliseum in left field, a left-handed batter.
Ironically, Wade Boggs, who led the American League and just seems to get better and better and may at 400 some year, is the guy that associates with Brett a lot on the road. They eat together when their teams are in each respective town. Taught him how to hook the ball and use the top hand and pull the ball more a few years ago. And it's ironic because Boggs is not a pull hitter. He uses that left field wall up at Fenway.
And he fans George. He struck out 4 of the last 5 hitters he's faced. The executive producer of NBC Sports, Michael Weissman, on hand in Toronto tonight. Coordinating producer of baseball, Harry Coyle, ready to direct Game 6 tomorrow in L.A. Tonight's telecast produced by John Filippelli, directed by John Gonzalez. Pre-game produced by Les Dennis and directed by Bucky Guntz. Strike one to McRae. The replay is tonight, produced by Kenneth Roy Edmondson and our technical director, Lenny Stucker. Thanks, guys. McRae is 3 for 4, and he was the big man early.
Bob, you know, a lot of lineups, and again, we're back to the Blue Jays balance, and you look at some lines and say, hey, we're down to the tail end of the order. This is a piece of cake as we go to the ninth. But you got Barfield and Fernandez. Remember, Barfield will lead it off. He drove in 84 runs and hit 27 home runs in the A spot. And Fernandez drove in 51 and hit about 290. So the Blue Jays, wow, is he something?
Absolutely overpowering. In league championship competition, he has now worked better than 10 innings in 2 different series, allowing 2 hits and nary a run. There's no way home, Dorothy. Apparently, a few Canadians who think Kansas City is in Kansas, which it is, but not this Kansas City.
Leading off tonight for the Blue Jays,
Barfield, Fernandez, and Garcia.
With Dick Hauser, the man who's been his ace, going for a lot of years. This year he has struggled warming up in the bullpen. Quisenberry. He's been beaten twice, both times by Al Oliver.
Those folks watching back in Kansas City, Missouri, feel no overconfidence. They know that for want of 3 outs, 2 games have slipped away already in this series. Ball 1 to Barfield. They led by a run going to the bottom of the 10th in game 2 and didn't come out with a victory. They led 1-0 going to the top of the 9th in game 4 and lost 3-1. Both times with Quisenberry on the mound at the end. Two and two.
It's a good indication again of why the young right-handed hitters, and Jesse Barfield said when this series started that we have a game plan to hit their left-handers. The game plan basically was to hit Dick Hauser's left-handers the opposite way, and 2-1 he still tries to pull it. So he'll be looking for a base hit rather than hitting a home run. They're still learning though.
Struck him out.
He's not getting any weaker, is he? Bud Black.
That was about as good a fastball as he's thrown since coming in the 6th.
the shortstop, number 1.
What a time to have his year turn around. A big game against the Angels. Kept them close when he gave up 2 earned runs, his only other start, and now he picks up Gubicza.
Brett was charging in case Fernandez bunted. Ball 1. If Black can get him through this inning, Hauser, who had everybody down in the bullpen, will have had to use only 2 pitchers in this game. And would have everybody but Gubicza and Black in pretty good shape for tomorrow. That would even include Danny Jackson for a couple of hitters. He would then be coming in on 2 days rest, and he could throw maybe an inning.
Tony Fernandez took 43 walks during the regular season.
2-1 to him. A little bouncer. Balboni to his right. Black is slow to cover. Black didn't get over there in time. And Fernandez is safe.
Balboni waited. Bud Black, typical. He's thrown very hard and so much effort. When he followed through, his weight was over toward the third base side like a lot of left-handers do when he tried to recover. Fernandez going the other way, got a good jump. Bang, bang. Davey Phillips sees the foot of Fernandez, hit before Black. If Black touches the home plate side of the bag, he might have beaten him. I mean, how many close calls can these guys get? Watch where Black steps. Tony gets a good jump from the right side. He slips as the wheels spin, but he doesn't lose a whole lot of momentum. Balboni had the ball, and the follow-through of Black gave Fernandez an extra step or 2, and now got the tying run at the dish.
It was Fernandez who reached on a playable infield bouncer that Concepcion could not turn into an out in game 2, and that's what started the 2-run 10th inning rally for the Blue Jays.
So many little things hurt the Royals in the first 2 games here. Will this little thing?
Strike one to Garcia, who hit 8 home runs during the regular season. He's 1 for 2. Doubled, flied out, walked twice. Bounce slowly. Do they have time to turn it? No, they don't even throw. And Fernandez got down there in a hurry trying to bother Biancalana. So White to Biancalana for the force. And the Royals are an out away from forcing it to a 7th game.
Biancalana wisely with Garcia running on the ground ball, doesn't even throw. Look at the takeout by Fernandez. Did he go after him? But Mosby's bat, which might not have come to the plate if Black had gotten over in time, does now. And look at that score.
The Blue Jays played 161 regular season games. They didn't have to play a strike makeup game. The Blue Jays are now playing their 167th game. The Royals are playing their 168th. And if Kansas City gets one more out, a season that, if you consider exhibition games in the spring, encompasses some 200 games, will have come down to one to decide supremacy in the American League and a berth opposite either the Dodgers or the Cardinals in the World Series.
They're not even holding Garcia on. They're guarding the line. They want to prevent the double again. Garcia's run means nothing. They're saying, if you want to go, steal it. Alboni behind him. Ooh, and he had a pitch he could handle. I don't think he wanted to get it that far over the plate. You see Black kick the dirt. He knew he made a mistake and got away with it. Look at Mosby's arms extended. Wasn't quite in as much as I think Black wanted to, but he fouls it back.
Two and one.
Once again, they're deep in that outfield. Nothing over the head. Cut down the gap. Guard the lines. Look at where Sheridan, Wilson, and Lynn Jones are on the warning track.
Base hit. The tying run is on. Garcia stops at second. And Mosby's now 3 for 4 with a walk, and Hauser may want Quisenberry to pitch to Orge.
Well, he knows the only left-handed pinch hitter available is Lewis Thornton. Lee is a switch hitter, and if he does make the move, Bobby Cox may just use Lewis Thornton. We'll see. Although Orge has more experience, Orge keeps looking back to the dugout. Quiz is coming on.
Every game Mark Gubicza won during the regular season, all 14 of them, involved a Quisenberry save. It looked like he'd get the win in this LCS game without the Quiz's help. But 1 out from finishing it, Hauser calls on his embattled ace. Can he come through this time? We'll be back.
Yeah, he's ready.
How does it feel when the phone rings and it's for me? Who's batting? Who am I facing? Nervous? I want that nervous edge.
Come on, let's go get him.
Keep cool. Keep cool.
Keep it down, buddy.
I can't trust what I got in the bullpen. Here goes nothing.
Sports Illustrated. Get the feeling.
Luckily for Quisenberry, Oliver is in a place where he can't reach him. Out of the game.
Quisenberry so far in this league championship series, no wins, 1 loss. ERA just under 5. He's only pitched 3 2/3 innings, but allowed 7 base hits, 4 runs, but only 2 of those have been earned. He knows how to throw strikes at the knees. In his great years, this year, some of those strikes have been between the knees and more thigh high, which has hurt him.
Folks, we've got to tell you that due to the length of tonight's game, the Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson will not be seen. Most of the country, late local news follows the broadcast, then late night with David Letterman. Good speed on the bases. And the one that counts is at first base, Lloyd Mosby, and he can really fly. He's the tying run. Orge at the plate, the winning run. Shaw on deck. First one from the quiz. During the season, Orch hit .313 with 7 homers for Bobby Cox. One and one. One strike away from a 7th game. They try not to show it.
Base hitting. Come on, guard.
They definitely feel it.
If this thing's over, they're going to feel like they've been through the wars, Hauser and Cox.
Got him. The quiz comes through, and there will be a final game. So in the first year that the League Championship Series format becomes a best-of-7, there is a 7th game. Cox with his pitching coach, Al Widmar. They'll have their best tomorrow, as will Kansas City. Steve against Saberhagen. Brett with a smile. He homered tonight. But the NBC Light Beer from Miller player of the game will be Hal McRae with 3 base hits. The first 2 got the Royals started. They drove in runs early. And Light Beer from Miller is happy to present a check for $1,000. In the name of Hal McRae, there was winning pitcher Mark Gubicza. Bill Caudle hasn't seen action yet in the series. A check for $1,000 in the name of Hal McRae to help fight multiple sclerosis. Now stay tuned for your late local news, followed in most of the country by Late Night with David Letterman. For Tony Kubek, I'm Bob Costas. See you tomorrow.